SpongeBob SquarePants never set out to be this big, controversial thing, but somehow, in between the bubble blowing and the jellyfishing, it created some of the most debated, analyzed, and even straight-up banned episodes in kids' cartoon history. Okay, so first up, we have to talk about Midlife Crustacean. Seriously, this episode lived rent-free in my head for years, and then poof, gone from TV, gone from streaming. So this episode kicks off with Mr. Krabs having a full-blown midlife crisis, and honestly, it's kind of a mood, right from the jump. Dude wakes up, his back's all snap, crackle, pop, and he can barely roll out of his hammock. Then his daughter, Pearl, calls him old man while handing him his meds.
Open up! It's time for the pill!
Ouch. You can practically see the life draining from his eyeballs. And it gets even worse. He's just trying to cross the street, minding his own business, and some little scout kid tries to help him. And then his arm, it literally just pops off. Like what? They play it for laughs, but man, the feels of feeling old and busted are just radiating off him. Then at the Krusty Krab, some customer is like, "My Krabby Patty is old and dried out." And her mom looks straight at Krabs and says,
Like that man right there.
like, come on, that's just brutal. So Mr. Krabs is spiraling, right? He feels like a rusty old anchor. But then he hears SpongeBob and Patrick getting all hyped for a big night out. And he's like, yes, this is my ticket back to being young and cool. He practically begs them to let him tag along. Patrick is a little hesitant. He's not sure Krabs can handle their style. He even makes Krabs do this secret handshake, which, funnily enough, Krabs actually knows. So he's in. And what, pray tell, does this wild night of ultimate coolness involve? What do the coolest dudes in Bikini Bottom do to feel alive? First stop, the laundromat. Not to wash clothes, obvs, but to stand in front of the washing machines and watch their faces get all wonky in the reflection. My dude, Mr. Krabs, is not impressed. He's like, this is it? This is your big night out? And honestly, same Krabs, same. From there, the night just gets weirder and more disappointingly tame. They go dumpster diving, gross. Play a D&D style board game, a little nerdy but okay. And then the library. Are you kidding me? And then SpongeBob hits him with the legendary line,
"Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs?"
and honestly, that whole scene is just peak comedy because of how utterly, pathetically lame their night is from Krabs' perspective. The final stop is a kids' arcade called Bunny Buns, and Mr. Krabs just completely loses it. He screams at SpongeBob and Patrick, calls them babies, says it was the worst night of his life. He's about to storm off and go home to wallow in his old age, but then Patrick announces the panty raid.
I guess you're gonna miss the panty raid.
The what?
I said, I guess you're gonna miss the panty raid.
You can literally see the switch flip in Mr. Krabs' brain. That little mischievous goblin inside him, the one who lives for chaos, just wakes right up. This is the degeneracy he was craving. He immediately takes back everything he said. So, the three of them sneak up to a house. They creep inside, find the laundry hamper, and pull out a pair of old granny-style panties. They're celebrating their grand victory when the lights go on.
I feel young again.
And who's standing there? None other than Mr. Krabs' own mother, Mama Krabs. The look of pure horror and shame on Krabs' face? Priceless. And SpongeBob, in classic SpongeBob fashion, just says, "You never asked." The episode ends with Mama Krabs grounding her middle-aged son, sending him to his childhood bedroom. And as he lies there, surrounded by his old toys, he tells SpongeBob he finally feels young again. It's hilariously messed up. For ages, this was just a top-tier classic Season 3 banger. But then, in the late 2010s, early 2020s, people started noticing it was gone. Missing from Nickelodeon, missing from Paramount Plus. And then Nick confirmed it. They pulled the episode due to storyline concerns over the panty raid. And this, my friends, is where the controversy explodes. My personal opinion? This banning is absolutely, completely, utterly absurd. The whole flipping joke of the panty raid is that it's set up to be this super edgy taboo thing, but then the payoff is completely neutered and harmless. They get caught by his mom, and he gets grounded like a literal child. The episode doesn't say, "Go raid panties." It punishes it in the most humiliating way possible. It's making fun of those raunchy teen comedies. To remove it is to completely miss the point and the entire joke. It's such a shame because it's genuinely a fantastic episode with a great character arc for Mr. Krabs and some all-time classic gags. Like, come on. But it gets even crazier. The next episode wasn't pulled because of a joke that aged poorly, but because it accidentally became a mirror to a global catastrophe. Talk about some seriously bad timing. This one, Quarantined Crab from Season 12, is probably the only understandable cancellation on this list. list. Not because the episode itself is bad, but because the universe decided to play the cruelest prank on the SpongeBob crew. This episode was done and dusted well before 2020, but then, well, you know, life. The episode starts like any other day at the Krusty Krab. Patrick's being a doofus, Mrs. Puff is trying to ignore SpongeBob, and Mr. Krabs is swimming in his money. Then out of nowhere, a health inspector shows up. He whips out this futuristic scanner and says that someone in the building has the clam flu. And because of this, the entire restaurant is now under quarantine. He slaps a giant metal door over the entrance, and everyone is trapped. As you can imagine, everyone loses their minds. Patrick, being Patrick, asks what a quarantine is, and SpongeBob calls it a mandatory sleepover. Squidward shuts that down immediately. He explains that it's when you're locked in a room with a sick person until everyone gets sick. Pretty grim, but also pretty accurate, honestly. Plankton, who is hiding in a soda cup, tries to make a break for it but gets zapped by a hazmat-suited fish outside. Message received. No one leaves. So who's the sicko? That's the big mystery. Mr. Krabs decides they need to find the sicko and lock them in the freezer to protect everyone else. This is where the paranoia just skyrockets. A pepper shaker gets launched into SpongeBob's nose and he lets out a huge sneeze. Instantly, everyone points their fingers. He's the one! He has the clam flu! SpongeBob doesn't even fight it. He agrees to go into the freezer willingly for the good of the group. Of course, once he's in there, he's having the time of his life, making ice cream sleds and just living his best life. But outside, the witch hunt is still going strong. Patrick sees SpongeBob with ice cream and gets super jealous. So he fakes being sick by rubbing green relish all over himself, just so he can get thrown in the freezer too. And it works! Now SpongeBob and Patrick are having a party in the freezer. The paranoia just gets worse and worse. Squidward scratches an itch and Pearl immediately accuses him of having the flu. Into the freezer he goes. Mrs. Puff lets out a yawn and Mr. Krabs is convinced she's sick. In she goes. Finally, it's just Mr. Krabs and Pearl, and when Pearl mentions she has money left over from the mall, Krabs in his money-obsessed brain decides the flu has poisoned her mind. He throws his own daughter into the freezer. Inside the freezer-turned-igloo party, everyone realizes that none of them are actually sick. They deduce that the only person left out there is Mr. Krabs, so he must be the real carrier. The mob mentality completely flips. Now their new mission is to break out and lock Mr. Krabs in the freezer. They bust out and corner Mr. Krabs, there's a huge fight, and everyone ends up covered in grease, trash, and dust. It's a total mess. The health inspector returns and sheepishly admits he made a mistake. He was holding his disease-detecting gizmo upside down. Nobody ever had the clam flu.
Nobody was actually sick. Oh, what a goof.
But after looking at the absolute state of everyone covered in all sorts of filth from the fight, he realizes that now they are all sick with a bunch of other random diseases. The quarantine is upgraded to an ultra-mega quarantine, and a giant crate is dropped over the Krusty Krab, which is then airlifted and dumped right next to the chum bucket. The final punchline is that we hear Plankton sneeze, revealing he had the clam flu the whole time. You can totally see the problem here, right? An episode about a pandemic-level illness, forced quarantine, mass hysteria, and hunting for the infected person was slated to air right around the time the COVID-19 pandemic was taking over the world. Nickelodeon made the call to just put it in the vault indefinitely, saying it was because of sensitivities surrounding the global, real-world pandemic. And honestly, you really can't blame them. While the episode is classic SpongeBob chaos with everyone losing their minds, the parallels were just way too strong and way too raw. Releasing it in 2020 or 2021 would have been like incredibly tone-deaf. But from a controversy born of real-world events, let's jump to one that sparked a massive cultural debate about the very nature of our main character's relationship. This episode is an absolute classic from season 3, and for the longest time, nobody thought of it as controversial. We just thought it was hilarious. But as time went on, Rockabye Bivalve became this huge focal point for a much bigger conversation about SpongeBob and Patrick's dynamic, and it ended up being thrown around in debates that went way beyond just kids' TV. The episode kicks off super simply. SpongeBob and Patrick find this abandoned baby scallop. It's helpless and alone, so they take it in and decide to raise it as their own. They even name him Junior, and this is where it gets juicy. They don't just become two buddies taking care of a pet, they immediately slide into the roles of a traditional married couple. SpongeBob declares he'll be the mom, and Patrick, being Patrick, says he'll be the dad. What follows is this brilliant and hysterical montage that's basically a parody of domestic life. SpongeBob takes on all the maternal duties. He's feeding Junior, changing an endless supply of diapers, and just nurturing the heck out of him. Patrick, as the father, dramatically announces he has to go to work. The next morning, SpongeBob makes him this huge breakfast and packs him a briefcase, which is filled with donuts, for his long day at the office. Patrick promises he'll be home early to give SpongeBob a break. SpongeBob is shown completely run ragged, doing all the housework, cleaning up after Junior, and wading through mountains of dirty diapers. He's exhausted, but he's holding out for Patrick to come home and help. But when Patrick finally rolls in, he just collapses into his armchair, proclaims how tired he is from work, and spends the rest of the night glued to the TV, completely ignoring SpongeBob and all his promises. SpongeBob gets more and more exhausted and, frankly, resentful, while Patrick remains this lazy, oblivious, working dad. SpongeBob, looking like he hasn't slept in a week, finally confronts Patrick. He is furious. Patrick, feeling a tiny flicker of guilt, promises he'll be better. He swears he'll be home at 6 p.m. sharp to take over. And, of course, he doesn't. He rolls in at midnight, having been at a work party. SpongeBob absolutely loses it. Their argument escalates until Patrick yells that he's going back to work. SpongeBob follows him, only to discover what Patrick's work actually is. He just sits under his rock all day watching TV. He's been lying the entire time. Their fight is interrupted when they see Junior on the windowsill of the second floor of SpongeBob's house, looking like he's about to jump. They panic, thinking their fighting has driven their child to despair. They fail to catch him as he falls, and for a moment, they actually believe the worst has happened. They start sobbing, calling themselves bad parents. But then they look up and see that Junior didn't fall. He learned how to fly. He's okay. He gives SpongeBob a sweet kiss on the cheek. Patrick asks for one too, but Junior, as payback for his terrible parenting, drops a coconut on his head before giving him a little peck. Justice. As Junior flies away, they watch, proud parents. The episode ends with Patrick learning his lesson, maybe, and suggesting, let's have another. So why the controversy, you ask? It's all about that dynamic. SpongeBob and Patrick aren't just friends in this episode. They are explicitly playing the roles of a mother and father in a domestic partnership. For many viewers, especially in the LGBTQ+ community, this was seen as a pretty clear depiction of a same-sex couple raising a child. On the flip side, some conservative and religious groups were absolutely outraged, citing this episode as proof that the show was like promoting a gay lifestyle to children. The outrage was completely, utterly ridiculous and missed the entire point. The episode is a brilliant satire of traditional gender roles and the unequal way domestic labor is often distributed in a household. It's a story about a stay-at-home mom, SpongeBob, getting totally burned out and unappreciated by a lazy, working dad, Patrick. That is the core message. Whether you interpret their relationship as romantic or not is almost beside the point. The genius of the episode is that it works on both levels. You can totally see it as two naive friends trying to figure out parenting, or you can see it as a poignant, hilarious story about a queer family. The controversy honestly says way more about the people who were upset by it than it does about the show itself. Get over yourselves, people! Okay, so from family dynamics, let's jump to something way more uncomfortable and, frankly, kinda dark. SpongeBob being a total jerk and straight up abusive to his pet. Most of the time, SpongeBob is the best pet owner ever. His relationship with Gary the Snail is seriously one of the most heartwarming things on the show. That's why The Great Snail Race hits so differently, and for many is just deeply unsettling to watch. This episode takes SpongeBob's character and twists it into something ugly, all because he wants to win. And honestly, I can totally see why this one got banned in some countries. The story kicks off with Squidward getting a new pet, a fancy-pants female snail named Snelly. She's a purebred, got all the papers, and Squidward is just obnoxious about how she's gonna win the annual Bikini Bottom Snail Race. He openly mocks Gary, calling him a mutt who wouldn't stand a chance. This, of course, totally gets under SpongeBob's skin. His competitive side flares up, and he proudly declares he's entering Gary in the race just to prove Squidward wrong. To round out the competition, Patrick, being Patrick, decides to enter his pet rock, Rocky. And this is where things take a super dark turn. SpongeBob becomes obsessed with winning. He's not the fun-loving, innocent sponge we know. He turns into an abusive coach. He puts Gary through an absolutely brutal training regimen. We see a montage of SpongeBob pushing Gary to his absolute physical and mental limits. He's screaming at him, forcing him to exercise until he collapses from exhaustion, literally not letting him rest or sleep. There's this one moment that just sticks with me. It's truly awful. A tired Gary tries to drink some water, and SpongeBob just yanks it away, yelling, "No water breaks!" He becomes a monster, totally consumed by his desire to beat Squidward. It's honestly disturbing to watch, and I personally feel like they went a bit too far with how cruel SpongeBob becomes. By the day of the race, Gary is a complete wreck. He's totally burned out. His body is frail, his eyes are bloodshot and baggy. He can barely even move to the starting line. When the race starts, Gary just sputters. But SpongeBob, still in drill sergeant mode, berates him until he finally gets going. The race itself is horrifying to watch. Gary's body completely gives out on him in the most graphic way possible. First, his eyes inflate like balloons and then literally explode, splattering goo everywhere. Then, his shell pops open like the hood of a broken down car, spewing smoke and oil. He starts spinning out of control, leaving skid marks on the track, before crashing violently into a wall and literally exploding in a ball of fire. It's not funny, it's just unsettling. Seeing Gary in a flaming heap on the track finally snaps SpongeBob out of it. He realizes the horrible thing he's done. He runs onto the track, which gets him disqualified, and just holds his devastated pet, crying and apologizing profusely for pushing him too far. It's a genuinely heartbreaking moment, and honestly, it's the only part of this episode where I don't feel completely uncomfortable. In a sweet turn of events, Snelly, who is about to win, sees what happened to Gary, turns around, and goes to comfort him. They instantly fall in love. I guess some good came out of it. The final punchline is that while all this drama was unfolding, Patrick's pet rock, Rocky, was just sitting at the starting line. After everyone else was disqualified or crashed, an official announces that Rocky has won the race. Patrick, being the loyal friend, gives the trophy to Squidward, saying he knows how much he wanted to win. The trophy is hilariously misengraved with Squidward Tortellini, which is the final gag. Oh, and then Sandy randomly shows up and kicks SpongeBob for a sexist joke he apparently made earlier, which feels like a completely random and tacked-on ending to me, almost like they just needed another laugh. The controversy here is plain and simple: animal abuse. While it's a cartoon, the way SpongeBob treats Gary was way too real and cruel for many viewers. Because of this, Nick Canada and some other international networks banned the episode. And honestly, I have to agree with them. This episode is just tough to sit through. SpongeBob is so uncharacteristically cruel that it's hard to root for him or even laugh at the situation. While the episode's message is clearly that pushing someone too hard for your own glory is wrong, the journey there is incredibly uncomfortable. It's one of the few times the show feels mean-spirited, and that's a vibe I just don't like from SpongeBob. The apology at the end is necessary, but it doesn't quite wash away the bad taste left by the first two-thirds of the episode. It's definitely a memorable episode for sure, but maybe not for the right reasons if you ask me. Now, from physical cruelty, we turn to a different kind of harm, one that comes from words and stereotypes. We're talking about squirrel jokes from season 2, and let me just say, this episode is a masterpiece when it comes to tackling racism and prejudice. It's not controversial because it's offensive. It's controversial because it goes there in a kid's cartoon. So, the Krusty Krab has a comedy night, right? And SpongeBob gets up there and his jokes are so bad they're actually painful. Salt shaker jokes, fork jokes, pure cringe. The crowd's booing, even Patrick's yelling at him to get lost. Then he sees Sandy, and in a moment of desperation, he cracks a joke about her big teeth. The crowd, like a bunch of vultures, starts to laugh. And SpongeBob, seeing his chance to be a comedy star, doubles down. He starts telling squirrel jokes, and these are based on all the lame, negative stereotypes. Squirrels are dumb, they're smelly, their teeth are weird, and the crowd, they eat it up. SpongeBob's an overnight sensation. But Sandy is not laughing. She looks totally hurt. After the show, she confronts SpongeBob, telling him his jokes, even if he thinks they're harmless, are actually really hurtful. And SpongeBob, being totally dense, is like, nah, it's just an act, Sandy. Everyone knows you're smart. But oh boy, does Sandy find out that's not true. The next day, those jokes have taken on a life of their own. People on the street aren't seeing Sandy, the brilliant scientist. They're seeing the stupid squirrel from SpongeBob's act. Some random fish asks her the time and then smirks and asks, "Are you sure? You're not too stupid to tell time, are ya? Can you believe the audacity?" The jokes have created real-life prejudice against her. This part totally gets to me because it's so real. Sandy goes to SpongeBob again, practically begging him to stop. She explains how his words are actually messing up her life. But SpongeBob, scared he'll bomb without his popular material, tries his old lame jokes. And the crowd literally chants, "We want squirrel jokes!" And like a total pushover, he caves. He even puts on fake buck teeth and like a stereotypical accent. After that show, Sandy leaves him a note. She's like, hey, your jokes are super funny. Come to my tree dome to celebrate. And SpongeBob, naive as ever, goes. But when he gets there, Sandy has transformed herself into the very stereotype he's been joking about. She's acting like a brainless yokel squirrel. She glues him to a chair and takes his water helmet to use as a vase. As SpongeBob starts to dehydrate and panic, begging for water, Sandy shoves a hose in his mouth and turns it on full blast, inflating him like a giant water balloon until he fills the entire tree dome. When he's literally being hurt by her acting out the stereotype he created, he finally gets it. He screams that he promises to stop telling squirrel jokes forever. At the next comedy night, SpongeBob tells one last super tame squirrel joke, and then he starts making fun of everyone: fish, crabs, starfish, and even sponges. He turns the humor onto himself and everybody else, and the crowd laughs, not at a targeted group, but together, at themselves. It's a beautiful moment. He and Sandy share a knowing look, and all is right with the world. This is like hands down one of the most brilliant and important episodes SpongeBob ever did. The squirrel jokes are totally a stand-in for any kind of racist, sexist, or prejudiced humor. The episode perfectly shows how "it's just a joke" can snowball into real-world discrimination and hurt. It's a powerful lesson for kids and, let's be real, a lot of adults, about how words have consequences. It's only controversial because it dared to have such a strong, meaningful message. And I, for one, am here for it. If Squirrel Jokes was all about social prejudice, then Selling Out from Season 4 is like, it's equally sharp, but maybe a little more sneaky cousin that takes aim at corporate capitalism and the total lack of soul in consumer culture. The episode kicks off with Mr. Krabs doing what he does best, singing a love song to his money. My dude lives for the greenbacks. Then, this fancy pants fish in a suit, Howard Blandy, strolls in. He's from some massive restaurant big shot company and offers Mr. Krabs a mountain of cash for the Krusty Krab. And naturally, Mr. Krabs, seeing dollar signs dance in his eyes, sells out. He gives SpongeBob and Squidward a quick peace out and swans off to enjoy retirement. And changes start hitting. The beloved, quirky Krusty Krab gets facelifted into Krabby Mondays. It's like totally generic, totally soulless. This new manager, Carl, comes in, a total corporate robot who talks in buzzwords and, passive-aggressive threats. He tells Squidward he needs to be more spirited and makes him wear a goofy button and plaster on a painfully fake smile. And if he doesn't, human resources. I've seen this happen way too many times in real life. The forced smiles, the corporate speak, it's all too real. Meanwhile, Mr. Krabs is living the retired life, but it's super boring. He tries golf, painting, museums, nothing fills the void. He's miserable. Even Pearl, his own daughter, tells him to get a life. So what does he do? He slinks back to his old restaurant, now Krabby Mondays, and takes a job as a busboy just to have something to do. And here he hears SpongeBob complaining about all the new corporate headaches. But the absolute worst change? The food. The iconic Krabby Patties are gone, replaced by processed patties made from this disgusting, industrial gray sludge that gets squeezed out of a machine. No love, no secret formula, just synthetic engineered food product. It's like a visual metaphor for corporate greed sucking the soul out of everything. To make matters worse, the cash register is automated, which is just like removing any human connection. Mr. Krabs is fuming. He tries to complain to Carl, but he's totally ignored. Finally, he grabs a mic and tells everyone what those patties are really made of. He holds up the gray goo, and everyone runs screaming. He smashes the automated cash register and shoves it into the patty machine, causing it to explode and destroy the entire restaurant. Howard Blandy, the corporate big shot, shows up to the wreckage. Mr. Krabs, using the money he got from selling out, buys the restaurant back at full price. He changes the name back to the Krusty Krab and dramatically declares he has his love back, gesturing to SpongeBob and Squidward as his dear friends. And then, in the very last shot, because he's still Mr. Krabs, he immediately orders them to clean up the massive mess. Classic. This episode is totally famous for its strong anti-corporate message. It's a direct smackdown on big business buying up and making unique, local places totally generic. Krabby Mondays is like every single bland chain restaurant that's ever replaced a cool mom-and-pop shop. And that gross gray patty? That's such a powerful, disgusting image for how corporations can just suck the quality out of something for the sake of profit. And honestly, that message feels more relevant every single year as more and more unique places get bulldozed for another boring storefront. What do you think? Have you ever seen a place you loved get Krabby Monday'd? If you enjoyed this video and want to see me break down the episode that solved the Random Land paradox, click the video on the screen.